Not how I want to do what I want to do.
Oh, I see. That'll work.
No, it always does. It always comes down to this. Sunday night during.
Hi, and welcome to Australian Gamers Friday Night Podcast. I'm Matt.
And I'm Yug.
Tonight we'll be talking about difficulty in gaming and the fine line between challenging and frustrating.
We'll also be talking about Burnout Revenge. We've had a play of it this week, and we'll give our opinions of it.
We'll also be talking about announcements of some new PSP games.
Really?
No, not really, for about 4 seconds.
Okay. I was worried there for a second. Difficulty in gaming.
Yes, difficulty in gaming.
Yes. I think this is a really good topic. Something which has been discussed and talked about for a long time. How about you start this one off? I'm just not quite with it tonight, to be honest.
We've had to record the intro 14 times because he starts giggling at his name. He's like, I'm...
Alright, come on.
Difficulty in gaming. This is actually was going to be a brilliant segue that has destroyed entirely. And not the little scooter thing. That's what it's actually called when you jump from one thing to another neatly.
Oh.
I don't know why they called the little scooter thing.
Every time you start to slightly redeem yourself and become just that little bit less geeky, you just go and totally ruin it with something like that.
Dude, you're drinking. Right now. You wouldn't be wanting to throw any stones in my direction at this point. Anyway, the reason that jumped to mind was because we were just reading about the announcement of a version of Prince of Persia for the PSP.
Yeah.
And I noted that it's The Warrior Within. And I wasn't actually that big a fan of The Warrior Within because it was really, really hard.
Yeah, no. Did you actually finish The Sands of Time, the first Prince of Persia?
By finished, do you mean start?
Did you play it at all?
No.
Did you play Warrior Within?
A little bit. I played up to the first boss, and I just got walloped and walloped and walloped and walloped and walloped and walloped, and I thought, you know what? I'm not enjoying this.
That's interesting, actually, because I finished the first one, the
Sands of Time.
Sands of Time. I just thought it was a brilliant game. It was so much fun. Just the puzzles and the whole reverse time technology. He's not drinking alcohol, by the way.
It's a Red Bull.
I think he's slightly...
Yes,
anyway.
It's a Red Bull. It's actually the first Red Bull I've had since the last Red Bull. The last Red Bull deserves mention because...
Does it really?
Yes,
okay.
because the last Red Bull I had on top of a large amount of Coke and then went to sleep. And I woke up and vomited. So this is the next Red Bull after that little experiment. So we'll see how we go.
Yeah, special.
The Warrior Within wasn't an awesome game.
Look, I played it. Oh no, not Warrior Within. Sands of Time. Get back to that because I played it. I thought it was great. And when I played Warrior Within, I found myself actually forgiving a lot of the major issues it had, and a lot of the major issues came down to the fact that you just didn't really like the main character that much.
Right.
It had this rock music soundtrack which didn't fit in with the game at all.
Like Ladyhawke.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah, do you remember the movie Ladyhawke?
Yeah, with Matthew Broderick.
Yeah, if you watch it now, it's got this like thumping Vangelis soundtrack.
That's right.
Rock,
I remember that.
Folk rock electronica thing.
Yeah.
So doesn't suit.
But Warrior Within, it had that. So, I don't know, there was just something wrong about it. But because I'd played the first game and I'd enjoyed it so much and I wanted more of the same, I really did push on with Warrior Within. But I am disappointed that that's the version being released on the PSP. I don't quite understand why they're doing that, to be honest.
Because it's a newer game, I'd say.
They would have been much better off if they're going to rehash a PlayStation game on the PSP to have done the Sands of Time, to be honest, because it got more critical acclaim than the Warrior Within, that's for sure. And to that point, why the hell don't they do is it the Twin Thrones or the...
Yeah, I wanted the same thing, but it's probably
one?
not in enough of a level of development that they can just kind of port it over that easily. It's probably a fairly major undertaking to do it.
Did you actually see screenshots of the
PSP version?
Yeah.
No, I didn't actually. I didn't get that far.
I actually got some of them in my email, and they look just like the PlayStation version. I just love that fact about the PSP. Yeah, they look really good.
Cool. I mean, it'll probably be a good game. We'll give it more time later.
Anyway, how did we get onto gaming and difficulty from Prince of Persia?
Well, because my main problem with Prince of Persia: The Warrior Within was that I found it too difficult, and it kind of got me thinking about something we've been talking about a little bit lately, which is how difficult should a game be? How do they draw that line between something that's hideously impossible and just puts you off, and something that's challenging and yet rewarding?
It's worth noting here that, I mean, the way around that most games actually do is they have the different difficulty levels.
Yeah.
You know, easy, medium, hard, really bloody hard, impossible.
And then you unlock the ultra super nightmare death mode.
In Serious Sam's case, all the enemies are invisible. You know, or
gimmicky things like that.
Yeah, but and that's good to a point. But I don't know about you. I've never really put a game onto a really difficult mode just to play through it again.
I go normal.
The only game I ever did that on was the original Halo.
Yeah,
I never did that on the original Halo because the enemies were actually smarter and actually played differently when you were on a harder level, as opposed to just
more of them.
There's more enemies and you
have
lose health
and
quicker.
You have a stick.
Yeah, you know, it was just that. Yeah, it wasn't quite as good.
Do you ever wonder about that? I always find it really strange. I think that what's the game? Soldier of Fortune 2, I think, was the one that always struck me really strangely. That you have this super important mission. You're going to save the world. Here's a pistol.
Most games start out like that, though.
I don't really get that. Give him a big gun. What's with that? That's silly. Well, he's got to save the world. Okay, at least give him something bigger than a stick.
I'm sorry, that was Soldier of Fortune 2, which wasn't exactly renowned for its brilliant story.
No.
It was.
You could shoot off limbs.
Yeah. Wow, look at this. You can blow off a person's face pixel by pixel.
Cool.
Anyway, back on topic. The hardest game I've ever played, and I know it probably sounds cliched to anyone else that's played or even heard of it, was Ghosts and Goblins.
Back in what? On a what?
On the NES, Nintendo Entertainment System, actually.
I know what an NES is, and thanks for clearing it up for our hardcore gamer audience.
Just in case.
Right.
All right. But I remember having that cart in the system for just days and days and days just to get that little bit further in the game. It was just so difficult. It's difficult to explain, but other than just to say, it was really difficult to play because you died so easily.
Did you find it real? Because I was just thinking, do you think maybe the difference between a frustrating game or a bad game in terms of difficulty is in the challenge and the reward that you get for?
So saying the harder something is, the bigger the reward should be.
Yeah, well, even in not in terms of necessarily what you get, but just the feeling of accomplishment of having achieved it.
I don't know. See, and this could actually come down to a good example is Burnout, right? Now, and this is Burnout 3 and Burnout Revenge. I know we're sort of crossing over now, but when you do a preview lap, right?
Yeah, or the burning laps.
Or a time trial or anything like that, and you do it practically perfectly. I mean, this is some of the later levels in the game where it's like really quite, particular about it.
Yeah, very fine.
And you've got to make this run in under 60 seconds, and you do it in 60.02. That's and you've done it perfectly, and you've done it for 8. That's just beyond frustrating to me. That's like almost give up. Why am I trying so hard to do this? This is annoying and frustrating and unfair.
That doesn't bother me. What bothers me is when you have to do it over and over and over and over and over to get to that point at all. It's not the missing out.
That's what I mean.
It's not the missing by the skin of your teeth that bothers me, because just a tiny bit better run, a tiny bit better corner. It's the fact that you crash and crash and crash just to get to the point.
So you're talking about bad level design or bad...
No, not necessarily. I'm just talking about... the fact that the difficulty levels in Burnout 3, for example, and some of those burning laps are really quite high, and they've been set deliberately high to keep it challenging, and that's fine. But at the same time, I found when we were playing Burnout 3, and I noticed when playing Burnout Revenge as well, it's often kind of stuck at a burning lap. Like, in order to unlock the next thing, The races are done, the eliminations are done, the road rages are definitely done, because I'll kick people out of the way to get to them.
Mm-hmm.
But the burning laps are just kind of sitting there waiting for someone to get around to getting through it.
Yeah, true. Well, actually, I don't know, this is a good topic, actually. Games that are hard. Actually, this is something we should make a poll of next week, for what it's worth. What do you think is the hardest game you've actually ever played, and list a few? If anyone's got some good suggestions for that.
My suggestion right here, right now, Ninja Gaiden.
Oh, God,
now, it was famously hard, and
Hold on. Are you talking about the Xbox version?
Not the arcade version.
Sorry,
the Xbox version. I got to a point quite early in the game. I was fighting a couple of dudes on horses. I just kept on getting the living crap pummeled out of me.
No, I was the same, and
I just couldn't do it. And I just went, you know what? I've got things to do with my life other than try to kill two guys on a horse.
Yeah, because there's a difference. Actually, that's the thing. I mean, the game should be, experience. I guess they're challenging and all this kind of thing. But when you get frustrated by having to replay the same thing over and over again just to get past it, and it's almost like it's not even that you're not skilled enough to do it. I mean, especially people like you and me who have played games for so long.
Yeah, absolutely.
This shouldn't be this hard. It should be challenging, and you feel like it's interesting, because that is something that Burnout on the flip side does very well, is that you will screen through levels so quickly, slide around a corner, cut through traffic, and make it by the skin of your teeth, and you'll do that quite often.
Yeah, and it's almost like it guides you.
Yeah, but
like you're using the force to turn the corner.
Yeah, but I mean, if it was more fickle, if it was more of a realistic sim instead of an arcade sim sort of thing, then you'd crash all the time.
Yeah, because you can't do that, because it's rubbish.
Yes. But Ninja Gaiden, look, I was the same. I really wanted to like it. Man, everyone raved about it, but to be honest, to me, I actually found the difficulty, the fixed camera angles in a lot of the rooms and levels.
I hated walking into a room and then the camera angle was different, so you walked further into the room, not realising that you were now walking backwards out of the room, so you now had to walk back into the room. And of course I've got an attention span of 3 seconds, so I've forgotten that same thing was going to happen again.
Or even at the point of being attacked by enemies from you couldn't even really see them or know they were there.
But they were attacking you.
But you see, now that's a level difficulty that's a difficulty in a game that is more inherent to the level designing and the bad camera placement, rather than what is difficulty in a game?
Well, another thing that I was thinking about Ninja Gaiden as a really good example is, if you're going to have a boss, cool. If the boss is going to be hard, cool. But don't make me go through 20 minutes of level to get to the boss and then have to repeat that if I die.
Oh, did Ninja Gaiden do that?
Yeah, I believe you had to go through quite a lot of stuff to get back to the boss again in order to die again. It's quite common, and that's rubbish. Like, especially if that first part is really, really easy, because then it's just boring.
Actually, that's a good point. A lot of games actually claim a difficulty level. They put it high because they say, no, it increases replayability. Or something like that. You have to put a lot of effort into. Personally, I know this might sound really bad or whatever. I don't care. I really only like playing through a level in a game once.
Yeah,
unless it's exceptionally good and there's a whole bunch of other stuff to see, and
or you play through it once to get through it and then go exploring.
Yeah, then you'll go back and check it out. Like Half-Life 2. I mean, I went back to a lot of those levels and just was. Looked through them and looked at all the intricate details and stuff, and really enjoyed that. But I did that after I'd already gone through the level.
Yeah.
Repeating a level over and over again is not my idea of a good time.
Because you get stuck on a boss that's arbitrarily hard.
Bosses in particular. I don't know.
Has anyone seen a boss? Have you ever been walking down the street, blah blah blah, and this giant octopus monster with. What's with the concept of bosses that become?
Man, I saw one of those on Saturday night, actually, just down an alley.
I'm sure you did.
Kicked his ass, though.
I'm sure you didn't.
Yeah.
Speaking of giant octopus monsters, though, actually, that strangely enough does segue into something quite neat that I was going to say, which was To me, the most challenging gaming experience I've ever had was actually Final Fantasy VII.
I would have thought your most challenging game experience was SingStar.
You're funny. Final Fantasy VII Emerald Weapon. Emerald Weapon was a bit of an odd thing in that you didn't really encounter it in the game unless you tried to find it. And I tried to find it, and I challenged it, and it just whomped me. So I built up my levels, and then I went back and went, ha-ha, and then it whomped me.
Can you beat it?
Yeah, but you have to be...
That's
it's the hardest thing in the game by far. It's far, far harder than the end game boss.
I actually think that's less of a hurdle, and that's more of something, like you said, you seek out to actually...
Exactly, and it really added to the game. It was challenging, and it's kind of literally a 45-minute boss battle.
Yeah, if you're going to start speaking about Final Fantasy games, I always did find it slightly frustrating that, especially the last couple of really massive bosses at the end of the game, to me, Final Fantasy 8 and 10 were good examples of this. The last bosses, if you hadn't played the game for like 100 hours and gotten as many levels as you could, or built everything up, then you just couldn't beat this last boss or the last couple of bosses.
See, I didn't. I actually found the opposite, particularly 7 and 8. I haven't actually played much of 10. I actually found the bosses at the end really easy, anticlimactically easy.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, I mean, so what's the verdict? I mean, what is the ultimate difficulty?
I think
leveling. I mean, the other thing to consider is, some people are going to find the game a lot easier than other people. They do need to have that easy, medium.
But do they? Do you think? I mean, when you're playing God of War, did it have easy?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it did have those settings. It's just noticeably a game for adults, and I wondered if maybe we're at a point where people can be assumed, all right, look, if you're buying this, you're a gamer.
Hell no, absolutely. I would think the complete opposite. I mean, I do know a lot of people who are a lot older than me who play games, but they actually, even more so to the point, people who are older usually have a lot less time.
That's true. They just kind of want to run through it a bit.
Yeah, they just
see the story, see the action, kill some things.
The older you get, the less time you tend to get to be able to just sit back and play games. So I would actually say that a lot of older people actually probably would maybe put it down to an easy level. And not only that, but they don't want to alienate all the new gamers out there.
Yeah, I guess.
But I think games in particular, Ninja Gaiden is good. Actually, no, look, I read this the other day, going back to Ghosts and Goblins. It's actually being released on the PSP.
Really?
Yep, and it's the first time it's actually being seen since the Super Nintendo, I think. There were the Maximo games on the PlayStation, but they don't count.
No, I actually had it on the Game Boy.
Okay.
So
that may have been before,
but it may have been Ghouls and Ghosts, not Ghosts and Goblins.
Ghosts and Goblins.
I lose track.
Anyway, it's being released on the PSP, and Capcom's actually releasing it. And it's interesting to note that they're not making it any easier. They're keeping the infamous difficulty level of it to an all-time high, which I just thought was interesting, because that one of the actual sell points of that game is that it's really bloody difficult, really, really hard.
Well, that's good. And at least they're not dumbing it down.
Yeah, well, exactly. I thought that was really cool.
All right.
So yeah,
I think that pretty much the fine line, or the sweet spot, is a game that's challenging enough to keep you interested for a long enough period without actually getting frustrating. I think frustration is the one thing that you can't have in games. I hate frustration in games. The point at which I get frustrated is to me
the point where you start to lose interest,
and I stop enjoying the game.
Yeah, yep.
So I don't know how they manage that. I'm surprised that some games, particularly Ninja Gaiden, fell at that point. I'm surprised that people didn't playtest it and do the exact same thing I did and just put it down.
A lot of people really liked it. I mean, it's maybe it's just us. I don't know.
I think I have a lower tolerance for game problems than I used to. We have so much access to games now. We have so many games, and we play so many games that we personally, I tend to just go, you know what, not enjoying this, goodbye.
Yeah.
So,
fair enough. I don't know, maybe we'll play Ninja Gaiden Black when it comes out in the 360 or something like that.
Yeah, put it down to Ninja Dog level, which I think is the new...
Really? Dog level?
It's something like Ninja Dog.
Really?
Is the lowest level.
Are you being serious?
Yeah.
I thought you were being smart.
No, I'm never smart.
No, it's true. Glad we got that down. Anyway, look, we've talked a bit about this subject. I'd love to hear some responses from people.
Responses
on the site.
Games that were hard, games that were too hard, games that were challenging, things that you approved of or didn't.
We'll make a poll of it. I think this is a good poll for next week, actually. So, moving on, I want to talk a little bit about Burnout Revenge.
Burnout Revenge,
because this is a brand new game that just came out recently, and we got our grubby little hands on it, and we've actually the review of it should be up this week.
This week.
Yep.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people out there looking forward to this game. Burnout 3 was not so much surprisingly successful, but just took me by surprise. I'd never really played either of the last two Burnout games very much.
Little tiny bit of Burnout 2. For some reason, and I'm not sure why, Burnout 2 just never really got the support, the just vastness of sales that Burnout 3 did. And I don't know why, but yeah, Burnout 3 just through the roof. Fantastic.
Now, Burnout Revenge, I thought... I mean, just to briefly touch on a couple of points, and this is probably going to be only a real interest to anyone who's interested in Burnout Revenge. So if you're not really interested in the game, then there's probably not much point you even listening from here on in.
Change the channel.
Listen to some other gaming podcast.
Yeah, no, don't.
There's so many of... Actually, yeah, don't. Look, I really thought that when I first heard about things like, rival revenge, someone takes you down and then you have to take them down, or checking traffic, or even vertical takedowns or other aspects like this, I thought they were all just so gimmicky. I thought they were going to be really dodgy and,
See, this from a guy who supports the Nintendo Revolution controller. I don't really get it.
Look, what was the appeal of making a revenge? I mean, the whole thing is Burnout Revenge. You've got these revenge rivals. They kill you, then you've got to kill them. It's like, well, how does that add or enhance the gameplay so much that they've named the entire game after it? And then there's the whole thing of checking traffic. Now you can actually hit traffic that's going in the same direction as you, and almost shoot it like a projectile in front of you. To me, that was like, I kind of thought the game of the Criterion had actually sat down and gone, hey, well, Burnout 3 was so bloody good, but we've really got to do some new things in the next one. Yeah. Let's make it so we can actually hit traffic. I just thought it looked gimmicky, and plus, you see the vehicles going flying everywhere in front of you. That bit's
silly. I actually think it's a little silly.
Well, you see, now I've played it, I think it's fun. I think it's funny. I love the rival... Oh, go on. What were you going to say? You were going to say something.
I do agree.
Go on, say something.
You don't.
No, go on. Talk, I know you want to.
I hate you.
Alright, go on.
Anyway, I like the concept of it, because for a start in Burnout 3, it was often quite frustrating when you were nailing a perfect corner and you're sliding around and you just touched traffic that was going in the same direction. So if you were doing it in a real car, for example, there might be a slight grindy noise.
But that was sort of half the appeal of the original, was just that white knuckle, always so close to actually crashing and carking it.
But it was silly sometimes when the crashes occurred at times when they really shouldn't, because the actual impact was negligible or none.
Okay, fair. Yeah, actually fair call.
And this eliminates that.
To an extreme amount.
To an extreme amount. And I do find I don't know that much about physics, but I do know if you have a certain amount of speed in one direction and you hit a car going slightly slower,
it goes flying in front of you, like through the air.
Right.
I was playing Burnout, and I was going actually up a level where it's actually a slight jump, and there was a car in front of me, and I shunted into the back of it, and I was in one of the preview laps, and actually hit this car, and it went flying up through the air and just actually started to hit the invisible barriers
on
the side of the thing, and then flew down and landed. I just thought
The cars move like cardboard boxes after you've been hit, don't you think? They look like you've run into a cardboard box.
Actually, yeah, good point. There's levels where, I don't know if you've played it, but it's just traffic attack.
I've played it.
Where, yeah, you just drive around and you've got to hit
run into as many stationary or...
Yeah. When I first played that, I thought, man, this kind of sucks. It's a bit gimmicky, and I don't know, it just didn't feel very solid. But after playing it a few times, it's a lot of fun. I don't know, there's just
it's kind of like tag. It's like collect the cars.
Yeah, I don't know. It reminded me a little bit of, for some reason, do you remember Destruction Derby?
Yes.
Game ages ago on the PlayStation sort of thing, where you'd just be driving and you'd just keep driving into the... Like, you wouldn't try and avoid any cars. You'd just drive straight into them.
You drive backwards. That's the key.
Oh, okay, right.
Because you can destroy... There's no engine in the back, so you drive backwards and you can crash into more stuff.
You did play that game.
Yeah.
But, yeah, and now the Revenge Rival thing, I thought that would be really dodgy, but it ends up being one of the best things of the game, I thought. There's a massive appeal... And I guess the guys that made the game must have realised this, but there's just such a massive appeal in the car that takes you down, that makes you crash, being able to know which car that is, and just being able to mess him up.
Well, I remember in Burnout 3, even then, you'd take it personally, and you did take distinct satisfaction in nailing the guy who just nailed you.
I was never able to figure out which one it was, or
that's because you're not very smart.
How could you tell that all the cars look the same? They were different colours.
They're all different colours.
You're colourblind.
I'm not colourblind. I'm not very good with some shades, but I can tell what's yellow. Admittedly, it is easier if it's like the yellow one that hits you rather than the like mauve one instead of the green one while you're in the shadows or something.
Well, I don't know. I guess I never really thought, because
sometimes they go by.
A lot of the time, even in Revenge, you wouldn't know who screwed you up. You wouldn't even know if they have screwed you up half the time. You're going around a corner and suddenly you crash.
Yeah.
You know, and in this game, at least you know, that's because the guy behind you suddenly hit you just before you crashed. It's his fault. Go get him.
Yeah.
And the amount of times I've played this game, and I've played a lot of it, where you actually, I'm driving through like a road rage event, and I'll actually go past, not a road rage, like a trial or whatever, or I'll go past the other cars that have like just normal blue names in order to get that red bastard that actually made me crash earlier. Like, I don't know if it's a psychological thing or...
No, see, I will kill everyone.
Well, I will specifically aim for that bastard that took me down.
Right. Yeah, no, fair enough. Do you have more points or anything for it?
I think so.
I know there's some trophies that you unlock by getting 2 revenge kills.
Yeah. I honestly don't know. I think there probably is. But
mostly it's just the sheer satisfaction.
Yeah. Which, obviously, you know, they picked up on and realised. Moving
on from the revenge thing, there's a few other things that I really like that are additions to it. I like the fact there's multiple paths, shortcuts and so on.
Yep.
Those are really nice additions.
And they're everywhere too.
And they're everywhere, which gives a lot of replay value.
And, I mean, don't think that because they're everywhere you get confused about where you have to go or anything like that. It's not like that. It's interesting because the levels are actually they feel very natural. They feel very
linear in a way.
They feel very linear, but there are a lot of options to each level, which is really cool. The level design is very well done, and you might be screaming at like 200 miles per hour through these levels, but you have a certain feeling of control.
It's good.
Just because it is such good level design.
And because I am such a good driver.
Right, yeah, because you're so good at driving games.
Hey, I'm pretty good at Burnout.
Yeah, right. You win mashed all the time, do you?
You drive a pink car.
So you get beaten by a pink car.
I can't stop staring at it.
Which is worse?
I can't stop laughing, that's the problem.
Beaten by the pink car.
Being the pink car, definitely. And I think we should have the poll about that.
Okay, yeah, whatever.
I think we should avoid this whole question about...
Look, whatever helps you sleep at night.
Level.
But yeah.
Air. I like the air as well. There's a lot more air in Burnout Revenge than there ever was in 3, and that gives it a much more dynamic and dramatic feel. and I do really love the vertical takedowns. Vertical takedowns are when you land on top of another car and pancake it.
Yeah.
And it's cool.
That is cool. But look, overall, great game. Really good.
Yeah.
I thought it'd be a lot dodgier than it was, but man, it has actually exceeded all of my expectations.
And
I'm not even saying that to be nice. We at Australian Gamer don't have any particular loyalties to Microsoft or Sony or to anyone. If we think a game is crap, we will say it's.
We don't even
crap.
like each other. So.
No, that's true. I can't stand Matt. So.
No. So yeah, I have to agree with you, unfortunately. Burnout Revenge is excellent. If you've played Burnout 3, you know what to expect. Or do you?
Well, the other thing is, if you've played Burnout 3...
It adds enough.
Yeah, it adds enough to warrant purchasing Burnout Revenge.
If you haven't played Burnout 3, on the other hand, it's worth bearing in mind also that Burnout 3 is $30.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, I didn't know that. That's a good point.
So, if you haven't played it, Burnout 3 for $30, give it a rip.
Yep, cool. Well, look, I think that's probably going to do us for tonight.
That's a wrap.
We should
wrap now. We should actually wrap. Yo.
My name is...
That was a joke. I really didn't want you to actually do it.
My name is Yug.
He thinks he's doing gang signs. He's really not.
This here is Matt. He's really fat. As in PH.
Yeah, no, we get it.
Like fat. Cool.
Yeah, no.
But, it's interesting because, you're not, so me actually rapping about that,
I'm not fat or I'm not cool?
You're not... Well, take your pick.
Okay.
Look, anyway, thanks for tuning in. Eventually, Matt will get around to programming it so that people can download the previous versions of podcasts that we have done on the website.
I thought we already could.
No. How? Where?
Aha, interesting.
Yeah.
I'll do that any second now.
Yeah, okay. He's going to sleep. Alright, anyway, look, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you this time next week.
With another exciting installment. We will have Dancing Clowns, and we'll have a special guest star, Sting.
Really?
Sting will be joining us in the studio.
Really?
Yes. With his little guitar.
It's not a little guitar, he does the big guitar.
No, he's got a little one now.
Really?
Tiny, little, ukulele thing.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
You're lying, aren't you? I like Sting.
Lying isn't what I'd call it.
This is
just making stuff up.
Oh, this is dragging on now. What are the chances that people have just stopped listening by now?
I think pretty good.
This should be like a little reward for the people that have actually lasted the entire podcast.
This is a reward.
This is a reward because we're not.
They have to sit through this now. That's a great reward.
Can we just end this thing?
Yeah.
All right.
Let's just press stop.
Okay. All right.
See you guys later.
See ya.
Bye.